Racquel Henry is a Trinidadian writer who resides in Orlando, Florida. She earned an MFA in creative writing from Fairleigh Dickinson University. Racquel is a part-time English professor, the founder of the Writing Center Writers Atelier, and is also the co-founder and co-editor of Black Fox Literary Magazine. Now, I have a few thoughts I want to share, if that's all right. Although I should probably extol Racquel's written work, the value of which will be obvious in a moment, if she will forgive me, I wanted to instead briefly talk a little bit about her community work with Writers Atelier. In addition to offering a myriad of classes, both online and in person, and to serve as the location for local literary events, Writers Atelier offers writers a space in which to do their work outside of the home, which, as anyone who writes know, can be so full of distraction and focus-destroying elements like pets and family and unwashed dishes. And I think that that's a really, really super important thing. I think also that her understanding that writers need that third space that isn't home or work is also really, really, really astute. If there are any young and upcoming writers in the audience, you would do well to spend a little bit of time at Writers Atelier, both working, but also, if you have a moment, speaking to Racquel, because she's got some really, really, really good stuff to tell you. So, without any further blah, blah, blah from me, let's welcome Racquel Henry.
Hi. Well, first I want to say it's really great to see this many people turn out for an Orlando literary event. It just keeps getting better here, and I'm very happy to be a part of the literary community. I also want to thank Jared and Ryan for inviting me to read. It's an honor to read here not only with Hunter Choate, but Lauren Groff. So today I'm going to read a little bit from a novel that I've been working on since 2013. And it's a young adult contemporary novel, and my character has anorexia. And I wrote the book for a lot of reasons, but one important reason is that I think people don't understand that it's just not an illness where you can say, just eat. A lot of it is also mental, and it has to do, with your mind as well. And I hope that I'm able to bridge the gap a little bit with my novel. So here it is. Just also, one last thing, a little bit of a background on where I'm starting. At the beginning of the novel, my character, Colette, she mentions that there was an accident of some sort, but she doesn't tell the reader exactly what it is. So the section I'm reading from is the part where she sort of lets the reader in. And with young adult fiction, a lot of it is written in the first person because of the immediacy, and it has a lot of internal monologue. So this is her sort of reflecting on the accident and letting the reader sort of know what happened. I don't like myself. It's getting harder to like myself when it's supposed to be getting easier. Not eating is getting to me. I still see a fat pig when I look in the mirror every morning. Some days are better than others. One minute I can legitimize what I'm doing. The next, I try to talk myself out of it. I just need to keep going and stick to the plan. Don't stop until you see bones, echoes in my head. Later tonight, the family is getting together at my aunt's house. This should be interesting. I think that I must be the only one in our family who sees through all the fake smiles and the fake interest in each other's lives. They parade around like plastic dolls with painted-on expressions. I'm pretty sure the foundation of Family 101 is to genuinely love and support each other. At least that's what I see on TV, but isn't that the way it's supposed to be? I know the unspoken truth in my family. No one likes each other. No one is ever genuinely happy for the other. We get together on special occasions like holidays and birthdays, but nobody ever picks up the phone outside of that. No one calls just to see how the other is doing. The only exception to the rule is gossip. Once there's even a hint that something scandalous is going on, the phones ring nonstop. It's disgusting. I'm supposed to wear something nice to the gathering, but my clothes are beginning to hang a little loose. I doubt Mom will notice because it's not like the clothes are falling off of me, but I go out of my way to ask for some money to go shopping. I know she won't object when I tell her some of the girls from the team are going to the mall. Mom hardly has time these days. She's been picking up extra shifts at the hospital because they're short RNs, and she never turns down a chance to work extra hours. She claims that we could always use the money, but I know it's total bullshit. She needs an out. Her job is the only way she can escape the broken life she's created. It's also a way for her to escape me. She hasn't been the loving kind of mother for quite some time. She wasn't always that way, Icy Cole that is. She used to love me so much. She used to do things like bake cookies and cakes on Sundays. I would climb on the stool near the island in the center of the kitchen and watch her blend flour with eggs and butter and milk. She'd let me lick the bowl after she poured the batter out in the pan. She would tuck me in at night and read me stories and tell me how much she loved me every day. But then something terrible happened. At first, she had been thrilled by the news. She and Dad always dreamed of growing our family. They always wanted more kids. Dad especially wanted a son. When Mom got pregnant, they thought they'd been so happy to tell me the news. I was about 11 years old when they sat down in the family living room and told me that I was going to have a little brother or sister to look out for. The image is still a little foggy, but I remember Mom very clearly placing her hand on her stomach, looking down at it and smiling. I was glad to have someone that I would be able to play with, but I was worried that they'd like the new baby better than me. I was well beyond my cute days, which basically meant I was already losing. I went with Mom everywhere, to all the doctor's appointments, to pick out new clothes or a new crib for the baby. She hadn't found out the sex of the baby yet, so she was buying items in generic colors. The nursery was jammed with baby diapers, onesies, and toys, even though they had not chosen a paint color. One day, Mom had been sitting by the computer in the study eating a bowl of ice cream and strawberries. It was one of the things she craved almost daily. She was wearing a bathrobe Dad had given her for the Christmas before, and had her hair up in one of those butterfly clips. For some reason, I remember the clicks of the mouse and the pauses between those clicks as she spooned ice cream into her mouth. Back then, she stopped working to be the stay-at-home mom she always wanted to be. Most days, she didn't even bother to get dressed unless she was leaving the house for baby errands. She'd been looking online at baby stuff, and that day had noticed a sale on a diaper dispenser. She was meaning to buy one, and there it was, on sale. She got herself dressed, and me, grabbed her purse, and we were out the door. We were already in the car when she said, "Shoot, I forgot my wallet. Stay right here and I'll be right back, sweetie. Keep the doors locked, okay?" She switched off the car, hit the lock button, and took the keys with her. She was in a rush, but there was no reason for her to be. I watched as she hustled up the front steps to our house and darted inside. When she opened the front door again and stepped outside, she squinted her eyes at the sun, which, looking back, seemed extra bright that day. As she locked the door and turned around, she slipped on the first step, tumbling all the way down to the very bottom. I screamed, "Mom," from the car, like that would somehow help her. I took off my seatbelt, unlocked the door, and threw it open, almost in a combined action, and ran over to her side. Mom, are you okay?" I said like a prayer. Everything around us got really quiet, the way it does right before you drift off to sleep. "Run back to the car and get my cell phone," she said flatly. I was expecting a different response from her. She should have been in pain. Her leg had been scratched up and there was blood on her knees and arms from concrete grating against skin. Her face suddenly seemed lifeless, like the glow had faded and she was just a body, no soul. I stood there paralyzed and staring at her. I was wishing for her to come back, but she never did. "Go and get the phone," she said, a little sterner this time. I ran back to the car and brought her the phone. She called 911, and before long, the sirens clamored in the distance. Dad met us at the hospital. He stayed at Mom's side and held her hand as she remained stone silent. She sat up in the hospital bed, her eyes maintaining vacancy. Neither one of them paid much attention to me. I sat in the corner of the room on a cold vinyl hospital chair, waiting in the loud silence. When the doctor came in to tell them the bad news, my mother didn't even flinch. It was like someone had reached into her body, grabbed the life inside of her in their fist, and plucked it right out. Dad was devastated. I thought about how his already pale skin looked drained. He just kept shoving his hand into his pants pocket, a habit I later learned he did when he was anxious. There was a possibility that the baby would be the son he was hoping for. He placed his hands on the top of his head and looked up to the ceiling when the doctor said the final words. Or maybe he was looking to the sky, maybe to God. But it was only for a brief second. He looked away and covered his eyes with his hands. He knew better than to ask God any questions or ask him for any help. You can't ask a stranger for such things. That was the end of everything, the end of us. Nothing was the same after that. Mom never loses that blank expression either. She's become a robot programmed to live a life out of obligation. Dad uses work as an excuse to stay away the same way Mom does, only he stays away more. I guess someone has to pretend to be there at least some of the time for me. I am usually unnoticed. They ask very general questions, they never press me like most parents should. Mom still wants me to be a successful person and go to college, but that's probably because she wants me out of her hair. I don't do well when she'd be stuck with me. If I don't do well, she'd be stuck with me for God knows how long. I now accept that my parents are incapable of love. They can't love me anymore because the baby took even the dregs of that when he or she disappeared. I had never seen the baby, and in my mind, it's the invisible thing I resent. How is it possible for the intangible to control the minds of the absolute? If the baby was supposed to be my sibling, then why didn't the baby look out for me? The baby took everything and left me with nothing. Our house is now as arctic as the hospital room had been that day. My parents are never going to love me again, and I am now the reminder that the first stop is also the last one. I slip on the dress that I bought for the family gathering when I went shopping with the girls yesterday. I study myself in the mirror and turn to different sides. It fits tightly at the top, then A-lines at the hip. A giant round apple is the only image I see. There is still so much work to do. I thought that I'd be much further along at this point and could start eating properly again. At least I'm beginning to see a little of my collarbone peeking out from under my skin, but only when I hold my shoulders straight back. I flex my shoulders back and forth, frowning and wishing I didn't have to move them to see the progress. I brush my hair and try to mentally prepare myself for the evening ahead. I've got no choice but to play along with my family. I, too, have to break out the watercolors and paint happiness. It's easier that way. Pretending to feel something is easier than actually feeling. Fantasy is always easier than reality because you know what to expect. It is human nature to reject what is difficult and choose the thing that lessens the pain. Thank you.